Welcome back to the Reflections podcast, where we reflect on the writings of the fathers of the faith. It's an AI experiment where the model will reflect the teachings of various philosophers, theologians, saints, and then we get to evaluate, did they get it right? Did they not get it right? And then the second part of this is to just have fun with the discussion. And the prayer through it all is that whether the discussion gets it right or not, that we are drawn into the presence of the Lord, that we are more conformed into the image of Christ. So for today, we are looking at Saint Boethius. You might not have heard of him. You actually probably owe a lot to him because he was one of the first to translate some of those big names like Plato and Aristotle into Latin. So a lot of what we today think like, oh, I have original thought, it actually goes all the way back to these guys. And you can thank Boethius or Saint Boethius because some people think of him as a saint. I'm not sure if he is or not. I've seen various things. Yes, he is. No, he isn't. He was not even Christian. Yes, he was amazing. I don't know. I have not studied him beyond just reading this one book. So I know a lot of the church history goes back to him and his little bit of influence that he's had, but you decide that for yourself. Whatever the case may be, he was helpful in a lot of ways, and we can say thanks. And now we're going to think about some things that he wrote and maybe say thanks again at the end. All right, so today's text is called the Consolation of Philosophy, the Summa Bonum, or the explication of the divine goodness. Already, that sounds amazing. It's a deeply personal and moving exploration of suffering, virtue, and search for true happiness. It's relevant for anyone navigating life's challenges, and aren't we all? In this week's reflection, we'll hear the core themes of Boethius's work. Listen for how Boethius is facing unjust imprisonment and exile, and he grapples with the problem of evil. He's questioning why good people suffer and the wicked prosper. That's irrelevant for today, is it not? So central to the allegorical figure of philosophy who acts as Boethius's guide, helping him understand the deceptive nature of earthly goods like wealth and power and fame. These are things that are helpful to put that other person there, like talk to yourself, talk it out. I often ask my students, if you were to give advice to someone going through this issue, what would you tell them? Because once you put that on the other person, like how would you advise them, suddenly things start to make sense. So if I'm going through something, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. But as soon as I say, what would you tell someone else doing it? Then I'm like, oh, let me take my own advice that I would give to someone else. So that is similar to this type of writing style. He is writing about, is true happiness found in worldly possessions or only in union with God? Listen for an examination of the roles of providence and fate in the governance of the world and how they relate to human actions and suffering. We'll also touch on the translator's observations about Boethius's work being a philosophical discourse that, while not explicitly mentioning Jesus Christ, is aligned with Christian beliefs. The translator emphasizes Boethius's understanding of God as the source of all goodness, which is seen as glorious employment. All right, well, let's go on over to that conversation and see what we think.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going deep, really deep into the idea of the sovereign good.
Ooh, sounds intense.
Yeah, but we're not just hitting the philosophy textbooks for this one.
No.
Nope, we're taking a journey through, get this, a 17th century text,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
and it gets its inspiration from ancient Rome.
Ancient Rome, huh?
You bet. A guy named Boethius.
Boethius. Rings a bell, maybe.
You might not know the name right off the bat, but stick with me here. His ideas have been super influential.
I'm sensing this is going to be one of those everything old is new again kind of things.
Exactly. Boethius, he was a Roman senator, a big deal back then, but then got caught up in some political mess.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, ended up imprisoned.
Not a good look.
No, not at all. And
Yeah.
while he was locked up, facing, well, not a great future, he wrote The Consolation of Philosophy.
Makes sense. What else is there to do when you're stuck in a cell?
Right. But it's not just some random prison ramblings. The Consolation became this huge, influential work. Yeah. It dives into those massive questions. Life, death, happiness, the whole shebang.
So we're going all the way back to ancient Rome for this deep dive.
Well, we're using that as a starting point. But here's where things get even wilder. We're also looking at a text from the 1600s.
Oh, wow. So we're jumping ahead a few centuries.
Yeah, by Henry Halliwell. And he basically takes Boethius's ideas and cranks them up to 11.
That's a pretty big jump from ancient Rome to 17th century England.
I know, right? It's Boethius, but with, like, a rock and roll soundtrack.
Okay, now I'm really curious.
Halliwell pulls in all sorts of crazy examples,
Like what?
like mythical sorceresses, even the Roman Emperor Nero.
Nero. Wow, that's a name that definitely evokes some strong feelings.
It's all to illustrate this hunt for the sovereign good.
I can already tell this is going to be a fascinating glimpse into how people were thinking back then.
Oh, yeah, totally. And it really shows how Christian faith and all that classical philosophy were so intertwined.
Like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. All right, so let's jump into Halliwell's intro, kind of set the stage,
Okay, sounds good.
So there's this part right at the beginning where he compares Boethius to, get this, King Charles the First of England.
Charles the First.
Yeah, the one who had, shall we say, an unfortunate ending.
Oh, right, yeah. Things didn't end too well for him.
Not at all. And this was just a few years before Halliwell's text came out.
Makes sense he'd be on people's minds.
Definitely. And the parallel that Halliwell draws is really striking.
In what way?
Well, both of these guys, right, Boethius and Charles I, they're both dealing with immense suffering.
Losing everything, facing death, that kind of thing.
Yeah, heavy stuff. And they both turn to writing as a way to cope, find solace, and grapple with the big questions.
So in a way, their writing becomes their consolation.
Totally.
Oh.
And there's this one line in Halliwell's intro that really grabbed me.
What's that?
He says, humans, unlike other creatures, have this perfect sight of the sovereign good. And it's because of divine revelation. Like, we're wired to understand what's truly good for us because we're connected to something bigger.
It definitely adds a whole other dimension to Boethius's more philosophical approach.
For sure. And then he throws out this warning, almost like he's saying, watch out.
What's he warning about?
The material world. He says it's full of charms and inescations. Distractions, basically.
Right, like all the shiny stuff that can lead you astray.
Exactly. He's like, don't get blinded by all the bling. There's deeper stuff to discover.
Setting the stage for Boethius and his whole exploration of true happiness.
All right, so you ready to dive into the consolation itself?
Let's do it.
It starts with this super vivid scene. Boethius is in his cell, totally miserable, when, bam,
What happens?
philosophy, like a real person, appears before him.
Philosophy is a person. That's
Oh.
creative.
It's brilliant, right? And Boethius uses this whole allegory thing to make philosophy come alive.
So it's not just abstract ideas floating around.
Not at all. It's a story, characters, drama, the whole works.
That's a way to make it relatable.
And Halliwell really brings in the sensory details.
Like what?
He talks about philosophy wiping tears from Boethius's eyes, and she's wearing this super ornate robe.
Wow, talk about making an entrance.
And it's not just for show. The robe's got all these symbols woven into it.
Symbols.
Yeah, representing practical and theoretical wisdom.
So it's like her outfit is a whole philosophy lesson in itself.
Right. She's not just some concept. She's this powerful, almost motherly guide.
And she doesn't hold back, does she?
Nope. She gives Boethius a serious wake-up call.
Telling him to snap out of it and remember who he is.
Sometimes I feel like I need my own lady philosophy to give me a reality check.
Don't we all? It's easy to lose sight of what's important in the day-to-day grind.
Totally. We get distracted, caught up in the little things, and forget about the bigger picture.
And that's where philosophy, these guys like Boethius, can really help.
Exactly. They're like, hey, pause for a second, reevaluate what really matters here.
So where do they go from there?
Well, one of the first things Lady Philosophy tackles is this whole idea of how fickle fortune can be.
Yeah, life can throw some curveballs.
She uses this awesome analogy of the Europus, this strait in Greece.
What's so special about it?
The tides, they're totally crazy and unpredictable.
Ah, so she's using it to show how fast things can change.
Exactly. And of course, this resonates big time with Boethius.
He went from top dog to prisoner? Talk about a wild ride.
Talk about a reality check. It makes you think, how would we handle that kind of upheaval?
Crumble under pressure or find a way to navigate those rough waters? That's the question.
It is, and Boethius is wrestling with it big time, sharing stories of others who face some serious adversity.
Like who?
Like Zeno, this guy who, get this, bit off his own tongue
Bit off his own tongue. Why would he do that?
rather than betray his friends to a tyrant. Now that's commitment.
Wow, that's taken a stand to a whole other level.
What do you think Boethius is trying to get at with that story?
It seems like he's saying true strength is about more than just muscle. It's about conquering your own fears and weaknesses, even when it hurts.
So it's about inner resilience, holding on to your values even when the world is trying to crush you.
Exactly. And Boethius argues that this kind of strength isn't something you're just born with. You have to cultivate it
Like a muscle you got to train.
by aligning yourself with the sovereign good.
Okay, now I got to ask, how does Nero, the Roman emperor, fit into all of this?
Nero. The guy who was known for being, well, not the nicest ruler.
Yeah, infamous for his cruelty and excess. Halliwell brings him up as a contrast, I think.
Interesting, like a what not to do kind of example.
Maybe. Nero had all the outward power and wealth you could imagine.
But was he happy?
Boethius says, nope, not at all. He was miserable, tormented by his own issues.
So it's not the position you hold, it's what's going on inside.
Right. And it makes you think, are there Neros in our own lives? Maybe not emperors, but people who look successful but are actually struggling inside?
It's something to think about for sure. Looking beyond the surface and asking what true strength and happiness really mean.
My brain is buzzing. This is where I start to wonder. If this sovereign good is so powerful and fulfilling, why does it seem so hard to find sometimes?
Why do good people suffer and bad things seem to happen to, well, everyone? It doesn't seem fair.
Exactly. And those are some big questions that Boethius definitely doesn't shy away from.
Oh, good, because I'm ready for some answers.
Hang tight. We'll delve into those deeper mysteries in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm hooked.
I knew you would be. This is where things get really interesting. All right, so we're still grappling with Boethius and his consolation of philosophy.
Picking up where we left off, right?
Yeah, last time we were talking about how messed up it seems that good people can suffer.
While folks like Nero, who weren't exactly known for their kindness, seem to have it made.
Totally. It feels like a cosmic imbalance.
Like the scales of justice are tipped in the wrong direction.
And Boethius is feeling this tension big time.
Especially since he's writing all this from prison.
Yeah, his personal circumstances are definitely fueling these big questions about why bad things happen.
But he's not just wallowing in misery, he's trying to work through it.
With Lady Philosophy as his guide.
And she doesn't offer any easy answers.
No magic solutions.
She takes him and us, the readers, on this journey toward a deeper understanding.
Of good and evil. Right.
Exactly. One of the first things she does is remind Boethius that the world operates according to a divine order.
Like a grand plan.
Like a cosmic dance, everything has its place and purpose.
So it's not just random chaos.
Not at all. She even uses a musical analogy to explain.
I like analogies.
She talks about different notes and rhythms.
Some might sound jarring on their own.
But when they come together, they create a harmonious whole.
So what might seem unfair or chaotic from our limited view,
Could actually be part of a bigger, more intricate design.
like we're listening to one instrument play a single note.
And thinking, what is this racket?
But if we could hear the entire orchestra,
The full symphony would make sense.
okay, I get that.
Hmm.
But she also suggests that what we perceive as evil,
Might actually be necessary.
wait, necessary. For what?
For the greater good, she's not saying suffering is inherently good.
That would be tough to accept.
But maybe it leads to growth or resilience.
Or a deeper appreciation for what is good.
Possibly, it's a different way of looking at things.
So Boethius just accepts all this. Everything happens for a reason.
No, he doesn't just blindly follow along.
He's got questions.
He pushes back. He's a true philosopher, always digging deeper.
And through their conversations, he starts to see happiness differently.
Oh, how so?
He realizes that true happiness isn't found in the external world.
Not in wealth or power.
Those things come and go, like the tide.
Fleeting and unreliable.
So it's not about chasing material things or climbing the social ladder.
Not according to Boethius.
Instead, he argues that real happiness comes from aligning ourselves with the sovereign good,
The ultimate source of goodness.
which he equates with God.
The closer we get to this source...
The more fulfilling our lives become.
Okay, that makes sense, but how do we actually do that? Align ourselves with the sovereign good, I mean.
What does that look like in everyday life?
This is where Boethius gets really practical.
Give me the actionable steps.
He says it comes through cultivating inner virtue,
Being a good person.
seeking wisdom, and living by your principles.
So less about achievements and more about inner transformation.
You got it.
And this brings us back to the charioteer and those wild horses.
Pleasure and pain pulling us in different directions,
The sovereign good is like the guiding star for the charioteer,
helping them stay on course.
providing direction even when we're pulled by our desires,
Or our fears.
instead of being ruled by our impulses.
We become the charioteer, choosing our path.
So how does that play out in real life?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of choices reflect this alignment?
It could be anything from choosing honesty over deception,
Courage over fear.
compassion over indifference,
It's about recognizing the higher good in every situation.
and acting accordingly, even when it's tough.
It's not about being perfect, though, right?
No, it's about continuous effort.
Striving to learn and grow.
Exactly, a lifelong journey, and I think Halliwell would agree.
Centuries later, he still saw Boethius's work as relevant.
As a guide for navigating a world full of distractions.
A world that can easily lead us off track.
Yeah.
And that's something a lot of people can relate to today, right?
Definitely, we're bombarded with messages telling us to buy more, achieve more, be more.
It's easy to lose sight of what really matters in all that noise.
These ancient ideas can be a breath of fresh air.
Reminding us that true fulfillment doesn't come from external validation,
Or material possessions.
but from cultivating that inner compass and aligning our lives with something greater.
It's a powerful message.
I'm starting to see why Boethius's work has resonated for so long.
He's tapping into something fundamental.
This yearning for meaning and purpose that we all have.
And he's not offering simplistic answers.
He's really grappling with life's big questions.
in a way that's both intellectual and deeply personal.
Okay, so we've talked about divine order, aligning ourselves with the sovereign good, and cultivating inner virtue.
But there's still that big question lingering.
Yeah, the elephant in the room.
If this sovereign good is so powerful,
Why does evil still exist? Why do bad things still happen?
that's the million-dollar question.
And one that Boethius doesn't shy away from.
In fact, he tackles the problem of evil head-on.
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting.
That's where Boethius's insights become even more surprising.
All right, I'm ready. Let's dive into that thorny territory.
Let's do it.
All right, so we've come a long way with Boethius and his Consolation of philosophy.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey.
We've been talking about this sovereign good.
That source of true happiness.
Goes beyond all the ups and downs of life.
But there's that darker side we can't ignore.
Yeah, if this sovereign good is so powerful, why does evil even exist?
Why do bad things happen? It feels like a contradiction.
Totally. Like,
Oh.
shouldn't good always win?
That's the question that's haunted people forever.
And Boethius, being the philosophical genius he was, tackles it head on.
He doesn't back down from the tough stuff.
But here's the thing. He kind of flips the whole idea of evil on its head.
Oh, how so?
He says evil, like in itself, doesn't actually have any real power.
Wait, hold on. How can he say that?
I know, right? It sounds crazy when there's so much bad stuff happening in the world.
Exactly. We can't just pretend it doesn't exist.
You're right. He's not denying the reality of suffering or bad actions.
So what's he saying then?
It's more about the nature of evil, how it relates to good.
Okay, I'm listening.
He argues that evil is basically a lack of good,
A lack of good.
like an absence, a privation,
I've never thought of it that way.
like a shadow.
A shadow.
Yeah, can't exist without light.
Ah, so instead of good and evil being equal forces.
He's saying evil is more like a distortion of what should be good.
Like a corrupted version.
Exactly. And because of that, he says evil can never truly win.
Interesting.
It can mess things up, cause pain.
But it can't overcome the good.
Right. It's like darkness can't extinguish light.
It can only block it for a while.
Exactly. So even when good people suffer, it doesn't mean good is gone.
It just means evil is causing trouble.
Okay, I can see that, but it still doesn't explain why bad things happen to good people in the first place.
And why those who do bad stuff seem to get away with it.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Boethius says outward appearances can be deceiving.
What do you mean?
It looks like good luck for the wicked.
Could actually be a form of self-deception.
A hollow victory that leads to unhappiness.
He brings up Nero again as an example.
Nero, Mr. Bad Emperor himself.
Yeah, he had it all. Power, wealth.
But Boethius says he was miserable.
Tormented by his own paranoia and bad choices.
So it's not power that corrupts, but the lack of inner virtue.
Like having a powerful car but being a terrible driver.
You could end up causing a lot of damage.
It makes you think about people today who seem successful.
But maybe they're not so fulfilled.
Boethius would say they focus on the wrong things.
The external stuff, not the inner qualities.
So if we bring this back to our own lives, what does it all mean?
I think Boethius's biggest lesson is to not be fooled by appearances.
Don't compare ourselves to others.
Especially those who seem to have it all.
Because true happiness isn't about what you have or what people think.
It's about aligning yourself with what's truly good.
Cultivating inner virtue, seeking wisdom,
Living by your principles,
focusing on what you can control,
your own thoughts and actions.
not getting lost in the pursuit of stuff or external validation,
It's a powerful message, especially in today's world.
where we're constantly bombarded with messages telling us to buy more, be more, do more.
Boethius is like an antidote to all of that.
He reminds us that true happiness comes from within.
From that alignment with the sovereign good.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm struck by how relevant these ancient ideas still feel.
Yeah, they speak to something timeless about the human experience.
This search for meaning and purpose,
Even when the world feels crazy.
there's a source of strength inside us that no one can take away.
It's a powerful message to hold on to.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Boethius and Halliwell.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep seeking that sovereign good.
All right, and there you have it. So if you read Boethius, or if you plan to read it, what do you think? Did the discussion get it right? Are they hitting on the topics that he hit on? And for the rest of us, assuming that they did get it right, do you agree with him? Did you get anything out of that? Were you drawn to Christ from this discussion? There's a lot of times where someone doesn't have to say, Jesus is the Messiah, for you to still be drawn to Jesus as the Messiah. I mean, we can look at the Protestant book of Esther. It does not have any prayer in it at all. Now, the Catholic version does, but the Protestant version does not. And yet we can see God's providence throughout the book of Esther. So that is something interesting to take away. And so you can comment here. You can follow the links down below to find hopefully some discussion questions if those links are still active. You know how it goes, internet, sometimes things happen. But in any case, next week we're going to have some more fun discussion, and we'll see. It's actually a surprise for me too. I don't know who we're visiting next week. We'll see. Maybe it's Boethius again. I don't know. Surprise. Well, that's it for this week. I am praying that you are refreshed and rejuvenated in the presence of the Lord. Thanks.